Hello again, it's Simon, and tonight we reach the end of this chapter. A journey that has brought us face to face with danger, mystery, and choices that define everything. But as one story closes, the path forward begins to reveal itself. Let's take a moment to settle in before we begin. Feel the surface beneath you, steady and grounding. Let your shoulders drop and your hands rest softly. Take a slow, deep breath in and out. In and out. In and out. In and out. Allowing the tension to melt away. Now, let's return to the story. The faint glow of the ChronoCore illuminated the factory, casting long shadows across the cold metal walls. The air felt heavy, charged with a tension Simon couldn't quite describe. Elise and Matthias stood on either side of him, their faces drawn with worry. "We don't have much time," Matthias said, his voice low but urgent. "The Gestapo isn't far behind. And if they find this place..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Elise's gaze flicked to Simon, her expression softening. "We need to decide, Simon. Do we destroy it, or do we try to use it?" Simon's chest tightened. He could feel the weight of their expectations, the enormity of the choice before him. If we destroy it, we might save the timeline, he said slowly. But if we use it, maybe I can fix this. Maybe I can go back and stop myself from ever touching that photo. Elise placed a hand on his arm, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Whatever you decide, we'll stand with you. But you have to be sure, Simon. Once we act, there's no going back." A distant rumble echoed through the factory, followed by the sound of approaching vehicles. Matthias swore under his breath. "They're here. We're out of time." Simon turned to the ChronoCore, its glow pulsing faster as if sensing the urgency of the moment. "I'll use it," he said firmly, his voice steady despite the fear gripping his heart. "I have to try." Elise and Matthias worked quickly, barricading the factory doors while Simon knelt before the ChronoCore. His hands hovered over its surface, the strange symbols glowing brighter as he touched it. A surge of energy coursed through him, and the world around him seemed to blur. He saw flashes of timelines, moments shifting and breaking apart, then reforming in endless loops. "Simon, focus." Elise's voice cut through the chaos, grounding him. Simon closed his eyes, concentrating on a single thought: home. The energy of the ChronoCore intensified, its hum growing louder. Suddenly, a bright light enveloped the room, and Simon felt himself being pulled away. Away from the factory, away from Elise and Matthias. Away from everything. When the light faded, he found himself standing in the shop where it all began. The photograph lay before him, untouched. The faint glow gone. Simon's breath hitched as he realized what had happened. He was back, but something was different. The shop was silent, the air still. He turned to the door, and as he stepped outside, the familiar sounds of the city greeted him. Did it work? He murmured to himself, his voice trembling. The world around him seemed normal, but a nagging feeling lingered in his chest. He glanced at the photograph in his hand, its surface blank and ordinary. "Simon," a familiar voice called out, and he turned to see Elise standing a few steps away, her expression a mix of surprise and relief. Simon froze, his heart pounding. "Elise, how are you here?" Elise smiled faintly. "It's a long story, but we made it, Simon. We fixed it. For now, we'll pause here. This is the end of Season 6. A story that has brought us through time and back again. But as one chapter closes, another awaits. Imagine the warmth of familiarity, the weight of choices behind you. And the quiet anticipation of what's to come. Breathe deeply. Let the calm settle over you. Good night.